Alors, je vais m'adresser à Antoine Basbous pour lui demander justement de répondre à la question sur la Syrie. On suit l'actualité chaque jour. Pourquoi deux poids, deux mesures? Pourquoi une intervention en Libye? Pourquoi pas une intervention en Syrie? Si je comprends bien, c'est ça le sens de la question.
Alors, pour la Syrie, il faut se souvenir des évidences. Les armées occidentales sont engagées pour la plupart en Afghanistan et elles cherchent à s'en sortir. Pour une partie en Irak et cherchent aussi à quitter l'Irak. Et récemment en Libye. Et ça dure. Si on compare la Syrie à la Syrie est un morceau beaucoup plus dur, situé à un carrefour extrêmement dangereux aux confins de plusieurs conflits simultanés, avec une capacité de nuisance du régime syrien qui est phénoménale. Donc, par manque de moyens et peut-être par sagesse, l'Occident a décidé de mener l'offensive politique, diplomatique en Syrie par d'autres moyens que militaires. Donc la réaction maintenant se passe au Conseil de sécurité. Pour l'instant, les Russes et les Chinois bloquent. Quelques pays émergents sont en train de flancher et de venir vers l'Occident. Et puis en même temps, il y a les sanctions qui ont été prises, d'autres qui sont en cours de conception. Bref, la Syrie va s'étioler, ce régime va s'étioler, va perdre sa légitimité de l'intérieur. Ils n'ont qu'une seule recette, c'est-à-dire la répression, et ça ne marche pas puisque tous les jours, il y a encore davantage de manifestants dans les rues. Ils ont essayé toutes les formes de terreur, la torture, les enfants torturés et rendus à leur famille pour terroriser. Bref, les tirs sur les manifestants, les tirs sur aller récupérer les blessés dans les hôpitaux et les faire disparaître. Bref, tout ça, ça n'a pas marché. Donc le régime a lui-même pris une dynamique qui va en finir avec lui. Évidemment, l'Occident est en train d'appuyer au niveau des sanctions et de chercher une véritable résolution au Conseil de sécurité qui ne sera pas militaire. Le pays le plus apte à agir avec un bâton relativement important, c'est la Turquie, et on est sur cette voie-là.
Merci. Akiva, à toi le rôle de nous parler de la gauche israélienne et de la jeunesse israélienne.
Before I answer the question about the Israeli left, I want to follow up on this remark about Syria. I am very concerned that what we saw on the borders of Israel is just the beginning. I'm afraid that once Assad will feel that he's got nothing to lose, what he will try to use with the help, we didn't mention the role of Iran, with the support of Iran, to use the Hezbollah to warm up the border, the Israeli north, and to distract the attention from what he's doing in Syria. And what he did last time, and we saw this document, was very clear, was trying to mobilize the Palestinian rejection to the borders. And I'm afraid that this is just the preamble. About the Israeli left, there are a few reasons, I believe. First of all, it is still not bad enough. It has to get worse for people to wake up. The Israeli, it's like, you know, Sharon is in coma and the Israeli left is in coma. But I hope that for Sharon, I don't believe that there is much hope, but for the Israeli left, there is still some hope. We, the Israeli Peace Initiative group that I just mentioned, is starting an internet campaign these days, because there is an internet campaign in Israel led by the Israeli right. You can go on YouTube and find this, that almost 500,000 people have logged into this YouTube that shows how the 67 borders are the Auschwitz borders. You know this phrase. that Abba Ibn actually denied that it was used by the Israeli right, quoting Abba Ibn, but he denied that he said it. But anyway, there is much more to do. The other reason is the crisis in the Labour Party. First of all, this Israeli invention of a unity government, cohabitation of what you have here in France, was adopted by the Israelis, but unfortunately we have a different conflict to deal with. And the fact that Ehud Barak decided to join Netanyahu has paralyzed the Israeli left. It has also, I think, made it more difficult for Europe and for the United States. I remember when I asked Shimon Peres, when he was the foreign minister of Sharon government during the second Intifada, the Al-Aqsa Intifada, and I asked him, how can you explain your support in undermining everything that you did in Oslo? And his answer was, well, what can I do if the Americans, if Bush supports Sharon, how can I stand by and not criticize? My answer to him was, you know, Bush may also say, if Shimon Peres supports Sharon, what can I say? It goes both ways. So I think that the fact that the Labour Party, which was perceived, and maybe now, after Barak did them a favor and established this new party, Istiklal, independence, it's in Arabic, Istiklal, if you know, he did Labour Party a favor because it seems that, you know, they have registered about 85,000 people. Most of them are newcomers. So, and hopefully the Labour Party will elect an attractive leader, because right now the Israeli left doesn't have a very attractive alternative. Kadima, Tzipi Livni, is not exactly left. If you ask me about the Israeli left, it's not about Kadima. If you read Tzipi Livni's presentation at the Knesset at the so-called Jerusalem Day, I'm willing to bet anything that you won't find any difference between her message and Netanyahu's message about the need to unify behind Jerusalem. One more thing that makes it difficult for the Israeli left is this myth about the right of return. And because you can't expect Abu Mazen or any Palestinian to give up the right of return before Israel puts even its map for provisional borders, let alone the final settlement, the permanent borders, you can't expect the Palestinians to say that, you know, and I hear again and again from Israelis from the left and center that they're saying, we're willing to go back to the 67 lines. We are willing to divide Jerusalem. But you see, the Palestinians are still demanding the right of return. And it's very hard. I'm telling you, I wrote, I don't know how many articles, quoting experts, Middle East experts, Palestinian experts, legal experts that are saying that the Arab Peace Initiative is giving Israel actually the veto over how many Palestinians, if at all, will be allowed to choose between compensation and coming back. But it was rubbed in to the collective mind of the Israelis that it is very, very difficult, and it is a trap, because you can't expect Abu Mazen to come up and say, today I give up the right of return. It won't happen. It's like you can't expect any Israeli to come up and say, okay, I give up the sovereignty over the Temple Mount, the Haram al-Sharif. So I think that the Israeli right is using it, whether cynically or genuinely, to convince the Israeli center left, because the problem is not the left. Okay, the Meretz voters will vote, most of them will go back and vote Meretz. The problem is the people who left Meretz and the Labour and moved to Kadima, to bring them back. Now, hopefully, since our group, the IPI group, is based on the idea of penetrating into the Israeli center using people from the mainstream. We don't have anyone from Meretz, and we asked Meretz not to endorse us, which they generously agreed to do. So what we are hoping that if people, like Amnon Lipkin-Shachak, who was chief of staff, and it's not Akiva Eldar, it is people from the who have the background of being military patriots, fighters, if they say what Eli Barnavi says, and what I said, and I think all the panelists agrees, and what J. Cole is saying, people will listen, because it seems that the messenger is more important than the message. Hopefully we will be able to make the change. The other thing, and this goes back to the question about Obama. As long as Obama is willing to accept Netanyahu at the White House and is getting standing ovation in the Congress, Israelis are saying to themselves, he must have done something right or something left. As long as the Europeans invite him, he's invited to Paris, they come to Israel, he has photo ops, people in the left are saying maybe it's not so bad. As long as Obama puts forward a formula but is willing to vote against this formula, the Israeli left has a problem. Like I said at the beginning, what Shimon Peres said, if they can live with that. Now, the Israeli people are willing to fight against the entire Arab world, but they are not willing to go to war against the United States, because they don't know what they will do if they will win.
Ok. Je voudrais conclure ce panel-là dans quelques minutes. Il y a une question que je me retourne vers Akiva Tassimeta. Je voudrais que tu réagisses parce que je crois que c'est toi qui est le mieux placé pour y réagir, qui me semble très importante. C'est celle qui a été posée sur l'éventualité d'une intifada pacifique palestinienne dans les semaines ou mois à venir, surtout après septembre, parce que je l'ai entendu encore il y a un mois à Jérusalem quand j'ai rencontré des amis palestiniens qui me disent ce dont on a peur, c'est pas trop de septembre, mais c'est du lendemain matin. Parce que la jeunesse palestinienne attend et espère, suite à un éventuel vote à l'ONU, des changements sur le terrain. Et s'il n'y a pas de changement sur le terrain, ça risque d'être, alors organisé ou pas, c'est un autre débat, le début d'une nouvelle intifada qui sera peut-être pacifique, mais qui pourrait déraper parce qu'on ne contrôle pas un processus comme ça. Il suffit qu'une pierre soit lancée, qu'une réaction ensuite d'un soldat qui tire, et on risque d'avoir un processus qu'on voudrait éviter. Alors, quelle est ta perception de cela face à la société israélienne? Comment réagirait-elle dans ce cas-là?
A few days ago, I spoke to an old friend of mine, Dr. Mubarak Awad. I don't know if you remember his name. He was expelled by Yitzhak Rabin, who was at that time the Minister of Defense. He's a psychologist, a Christian. He was expelled from Israel because he tried to organize in '87 a non-violent struggle. Today, it would be much more difficult to expel him. He lived in East Jerusalem. He's a refugee, a 48 refugee. And I spoke to him a few days ago. I asked him if he believes that it can happen today, if things have changed. Definitely yes. First of all, the Palestinians are working on it. They are preparing women, children, youth movements to start marching towards the checkpoints and towards the settlements. I know that the Israeli IDF, and it was covered in the news, and the Israeli police is preparing for that. They're doing all kinds of military maneuvers, how to deal with that, not to repeat what happened in the second Intifada, that in the first day 13 Palestinians, Israeli Palestinians, were killed, because there is much more awareness in the West and much less impunity and especially when it comes to Israel, that, as I said before, takes the credit for being the only democracy in the Middle East, of use of lethal weapons, and they are preparing with all kinds of instruments. You know that Israel is one of the leading countries in terms of the non-lethal weapons industry, so we are very good in exporting it, but not in using it. Our record is that we make money of selling this to other countries, but we rush into using more conventional or non-conventional weapons against the non-violent struggle. But the problem is that it can get out of control. The Palestinians are using the internet, they are using Facebook, they are getting ready for that, the Israelis are getting ready for that, but you don't need more than one stupid Palestinian that will start throwing stones to give the Israeli army an excuse to respond, or one stupid Israeli soldier that will rush into using his lethal weapons. But I believe that the Palestinians will wait and see what happens in September. Because if the day after September, the vote at the UN, nothing will change, and nothing will change, what may change is that the government of Israel will use this to expand the settlements, to punish the Palestinians and the rest of the world. Once the Palestinians will realize that the hope that the world will come up with some new ideas to get out from the political stalemate, forces like Hamas may come in, and as I said before, the good news is non-violent struggle. The bad news is having Gaza in the West Bank, which means a Hamas control in a democratic way, and this will be the end of the two-state solution. And then what we will see is, and this Egyptian professor is not the only one, Sari Nusseibeh suggested to me when I interviewed him 2 or 3 years ago, he called actually the British Foreign Minister, Gordon Brown at that time, to stop the financial aid to the Palestinians, and he asked Abu Mazen to retire and to turn the struggle from a two-state solution to a one-state solution, and instead of fighting against the occupation, fighting for one man, one vote.